To understand the zombie infection more, I released a video exploring, through scientific process, what could get you infected with the zombie virus in vain. It turns out that you seem to enjoy it, but that I didn't do enough tests. So, off the back of the vibrant comment section under that video, I'm testing more theories. Stick around until the end to see if your comment makes it into the credits for this video. Let's get into it. Of course, I'll be continuing with the scientific rigour I conducted the previous tests with. If you haven't seen the first video, I recommend you start there by clicking at the top right. But to briefly summarise, infection chance is set to the highest it'll go, 1. I wear a fresh set of scrubs for each test. I start off healed with no existing conditions for each test. And because of that, if sick pops up, we can safely assume that that is the zombie virus knocking at our door. I also allowed 10 minutes of incubation before declaring that a test did not result in zombification. What about the lab? Now, I introduced the lab last time out, and because it was such a tranquil, isolated, and controlled testbed environment for our theories, we returned to the same place. But, and perhaps a clue for what is to come, I have made a few changes. The changes I've made are shown here, where, well, I've added a food and drink preparation area for some tests we'll be doing today. Now, we've got work to do, so let's get into it. Kicking off with combat tests. Now, the idea behind these combat tests this time was to see the impact of armour, if indeed there was any impact of wearing armour. The original plan was to do a few combat tests, one with head armour and taking a hit from a zombie, one with torso armour and taking a hit from a zombie, and then a test with just leg armour and seeing if taking a hit from a zombie would cause infection. But I started off with the one-hit tests whilst wearing full armour deliberately. If I could get infected with the zombie virus whilst wearing full armour from a single zombie hit that didn't cause any kind of treatable wound, then, well, the rest of the tests would be really quite pointless. So for this test, I set about doing my pre-test rigour, resetting all conditions, wearing my scrubs, my flip-flops, and then a riot helmet, a bulletproof vest, and a pair of motorcycle pants. Then I walked into one of the containment rooms and tried to ensure that I could only get hit once. This was a little harder, as with no armour, you'd have the sort of red blood splatter appear on your screen when you take a hit. But with armour, this didn't happen. So I took my hit, I thought, and walked out. And well, sure enough, really quite quickly, sick appeared. Now, just a reminder here, these tests have not been to establish likelihood, how likely you are to get infected, just whether the infection is possible in these scenarios. So, armour combat test. Can you still get infected from a single hit even when wearing full armour? Yes, this test is approved. With the first armour combat test providing that result, testing different configurations of armour felt pretty pointless, so we'll move on. Zombie clothing test 1. Can you get the infection by getting a non-combat related scratch and then wearing zombie clothing? This test meant that I had to leave the controlled environment of the lab. Shocking, I know, but for this test to work, I needed to get a scratch from something that was not a zombie. Perhaps, say, a window. So, having done my usual pre-test rigour, I executed a zombie using my MP5, took all of his clothing, shoes, trousers or pants and his t-shirt, then walked to the nearest window I could see outside, shot it, crouched through it, got a scratch, came back to the lab and stuck on my zombie's clothing to see if the infection would take hold. After giving it its 10 minutes incubation opportunity, I can now declare the results. Can you get infected by getting a non-combat related scratch and then wearing zombie clothing? No, you cannot. This is false. Zombie clothing test 2. Can you get the infection by getting a non-combat related deep wound and then wearing zombie clothing? Now, this test was an evolution of the last. Perhaps we can't get infected by wearing zombie clothes when we have a scratch, but when we have a non-combat related deep wound and then stick some clothes on from our undead friend, is it possible to get infected with the virus that way? Similar to the last test, I executed one of the undead, took their clothing, and then set about going back to my window outside, and then returning to the lab to don my new threads. Now, my health was pretty low in trying to even get a deep wound. It turns out they're not that easy to get from windows when you don't want one. So I ended up taking my scrubs off to ensure that I could actually get a deep wound for the test. Now, after getting the deep wound, I needed to ensure I could survive the test. So after putting the zombie clothes on, I waited for a short while, but then did opt to apply a bandage, else the cut itself would have killed me. This introduced a variable, so for me this test was not scientific enough. I did wait the 10 minutes to see if the sick would appear, and it didn't, but as I say, with too many variables here, it was time for a rerun. This time, instead of relying on a window to give me a deep wound, by which point I'd have lost most of my health anyway due to the scratches, I'd use console commands to give myself a deep wound. So I kicked off in the same way, executing one of the undead, stealing their clothes, and then, whilst in the lab, I'd give myself a deep wound and put on the zombie clothing. A lot less variables here. Now, whilst there was still a race here between the wound killing me and any infection possibly taking hold, that was the test. Can you get the infection by getting a non-combat related deep wound and then wearing zombie clothing? The only addition here was whether I'd die from a deep wound first. The race was on. Would the incubation period elapse first, or would my health deplete due to the wound by then? Well, there was a clear winner. Zombie clothing test 2. Can you get the infection by getting a non-combat related deep wound and then wearing zombie clothing? No, this is false. The wound, left untreated, would kill you first. Now, the next segment revolves around digestion, to see if eating or drinking in-game zombie-related things would lead to the infection. This section did require a little bit of prep, initially killing the target, one of our zombie friends, and then, well, there's no easy way of saying this, processing them to yield some human flesh and, of course, some blood. And then, after cooking some human flesh, leaving some raw, preparing a mug of zombie blood and a mug of the infamous nectar, I was ready to go. Let's jump into the next 4 tests. Consumption tests. Consumption test 1. Eating raw human flesh from a zombie can cause you to get infected with the zombie virus. As I'd conveniently done the prep already, processing our undead friend and then putting a chunk of his or her meat on a plate, all that was required here for me to carry out my usual pre-test rigour, ensuring I had no conditions, was wearing my scrubs, and then I walked over to the fresh zombie meat and chomped away. Then came the conditions. Initially there was some stomachache and some sadness. Who knew that being a cannibal was so depressing? And then, after a short wait, sure enough, up came sick. Consumption test 1. Eating raw human flesh from a zombie can cause you to get infected with the zombie virus. Yes, it can. This is approved. Next up was a very similar test, but this time involving cooking the flesh first. Again, with the preparation all but done, I refreshed my scrubs, healed my conditions, closed my eyes, and munched away. This time on some lovely fried human flesh. If someone has just overheard you watching this segment, now's the time you should probably tell them that this is strictly within the confines of a video game, and that DeadZedje is not some unchained British fella posting about eating human meat on YouTube. Anyway, back to the science. After taking a bite from some seared and cooked human flesh, my character immediately became pleased, which is slightly concerning. Pleased, satiated, and ate a tasty meal came up. Usually I'd say there's no judgment here, but no, I am judging hard. Then a touch of drowsiness came in, and the wait began for the sick to appear. But I waited, and then waited some more, and whilst a hint of sadness came, there was no sign of the sick. Consumption test 2. Eating cooked human flesh from a zombie can cause you to get infected with the zombie virus. No, it can't. This is somewhat surprisingly false. Now, the next consumption test took the stress and strain away from our teeth and required just the ability to swallow liquid. Not just any liquid, though, blood. Not just any blood, but the blood from our recently dead undead friend. Now, I did want to do a test for blood soup too, but you can't make blood soup with zombie blood, unfortunately. Well, I say unfortunately, but I don't think that is actually unfortunate, to be fair. Anywho, the test here was to see if drinking a cup or a mug full of zombie blood would give us the infection. In video 1, we'd seen that injecting ourselves with zombie blood does not cause infection. So what about drinking it? With the preparation out of the way, I donned some new scrubs and did all of the usual pre-test rigour before walking boldly over to the kitchen, picking up the mug and drinking away. All 300 millilitres soon slid its way down my in-game character's throat, and the wait began. Bizarrely, almost instantly, I was met with a slightly thirsty condition. I say bizarrely like a seasoned blood drinker, but I guess my logic was that it's a drink, so would it quench thirst? I don't know, but thinking about it made me want to gag, so let's move on. A touch of sadness and drowsiness then came, and the wait was on. Now, we are in a crazy world, but in a world where injecting yourself with zombie blood doesn't infect you with the zombie virus, I wasn't surprised that drinking it didn't give me the zombie virus either. Yes, drinking zombie blood did not give me the zombie virus, and I'm not surprised by it. What is going on? Consumption test 3. Drinking zombie blood can infect you with the zombie virus. This is false. It does not. Drink away, folks. Now, consumption test 4 also revolves around drinking something utterly disgusting. Not just zombie blood, but blended zombie. At least I think that's what the infamous nectar is made up of. Again, with the preparation out of the way and a lovely room temperature mug of blended up zombie, this really is a video you'll want to have in your headphones instead of out loud, isn't it? It was time to walk over and take a swig. Again, all pre-test rigour was of course completed, and all 300 millilitres of whatever the hell goes into the nectar was consumed. And then, well, there's no other way of putting it, the potency of this concoction was immediately visible as I became deathly poisoned, inconsolable, and was in excruciating pain as soon as it went down. I was 2% hydrated though, so there is that. The two red chevrons appeared next to my health bar, and it slowly started making its way down to empty. Interesting though, no sign of sick. Consumption test 4. Drinking the infamous nectar will infect you with the zombie virus. Well, this one technically is inconclusive. I died before the incubation period of 10 minutes was up. What isn't inconclusive, though, is that a lot of you lovely folks who watch this video don't subscribe. And I don't like disrupting my videos asking you to, so please do like, subscribe, and comment down below with any other tests you'd like me to do. Speaking of comments, a huge thank you to those whose comments are on screen now, who provided theories for this video. I know there's a few theories I didn't get to here, so comment down below and I'll see if I can do a part 3. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you on Monday for my Let's Play, and on Wednesday for another apocalyptic video. Catch you later.